Welcome to my series From Fresh to BiS. Here you're gonna see me turn this level 1 Paladin into a fully best in SWAT character. In episode 1 you've seen me reach level 80, get a fast flank mount and level up my professions. And if you're new here, I've made a playlist so you can watch the series from the start. And now without wasting any more time, we jump straight into episode 2, because things are about to get really interesting. See, when you reach level 80, there is not much that you can do. With your starter gear, people will not take you to any raid, you cannot even queue into heroic dungeons, so we need to address that as quickly as possible. So I've decided to do the only thing that I can do with a starter gear, and that is the weekly quest, because people don't care about the gear score. They just take you when you whisper them. I found the guy, I whispered him, he took me in the raid, we went to Naxxramas, we killed the boss, and voila! I already have 5 Emblems of Frost, and as anybody knows, Emblem of Frost is the most valuable resource that you can get. After that, I've had a few options. One of them is to farm some gold and go to the auction house and try to buy some BOE items so I can get to at least heroic dungeon gear. But why do this when I can go, get the heroic dungeon gear and make some gold out of it? So I've decided to do some faction quests. I've started off with the Argent Crusade quests, because here I can get some decent item upgrades. Also, the quests themselves give item level 174 plus items, which are well enough to get you up to the heroic dungeon queue. The quests are pretty easy, even with starter gear. I've completed most of them, and item by item I've already started to upgrade my character. Almost at the end, when I've done almost all of the quests, I got my reputation to revered, and I've decided to check out what this vendor sells for me. Then the end result was 500 gold and over 2k gear score from doing just the Argent Crusade quests. Now we move on to the Knights of the Ebon Blade reputation. And the cool thing about doing quests like this is, first you upgrade your character, you make gold, and you can farm if you have mining or even herbalism while doing the quests. So you make gold and gear up. And remember guys, if you wanna play this game, you're gonna need a lot of gold. I've spent a little bit more time on Knights of the Ebon Blade because I really wanted to get my reputation here to revered also, because here I can buy my head enchant. And trust me, it's better off to unlock your vendor enchants earlier on in the game than just playing, getting to some gear and then going back to do the quests. It's most valuable to do it now. I've even asked politely in the general chat of Icecrown, and I found 2 people that helped me do the Icecrown arena. It's the same as Zuldrak, but the bosses here are way harder to do. At the end, I've got a decent amount of gold. I even had some more item upgrades. Then I've returned to the Knights of the Ebon Blade vendor and finally bought a nice weapon upgrade. Remember, weapons are the hardest thing to get in WoW. The end result of this? 1.3k gold and more than 2.6k gear score already. But even with this, I was so close to being able to queue in heroic dungeons. So I've decided to go to Stormwind and invest 500 gold and buy a wooden necklace and a ring of rotting sinew. Because these are items that I'm gonna use for a long time anyway. And finally, after buying them, I can queue in dungeons. I've spent only 500 gold for 2 long-term items, and I have 2 reputations that give me enchants that I'm gonna use even in the end game already done. Not long after that, I've got my first dungeon pop, and of course, my first ever dungeon on this character at level 80 was gonna be one of my most hated dungeons ever. But who cares? Every item that we get, every emblem that we get, gets us one step closer to our final goal. When we're big and strong, we hate dungeons like this, but when we have a fresh character, we love them, because we can feel the progress. It's the same thing in real life, guys. It's the same thing in real life. And after we've done our first heroic dungeon, now we have one less thing to think about. We can queue in dungeons, and this is fine, but we're gonna farm a lot. If we want to BiS out this character, we're seriously gonna farm a lot. So I've decided to put some time into buying some bags and unlocking all of the backspace in my personal bank. Then I've stacked some of the items that I farmed in the bag, waiting to be sold in the future. Then I've done another quick random dungeon, and after that, while I was farming in Icecrown, I found a guy who was looking for ICC rep farm, and I thought to myself, now is the perfect moment to try out. They took me in the group, I went inside, and we farmed ICC rep. So this is the first time that this character has ever been into ICC. Nice. We've done a run and a half, and I finally got my reputation and got my ring. And slowly I was feeling the progress. Then I started to farm again, and all the time I was queued in the dungeon finder. But the feeling of being in a raid was too overwhelming for me, so I've decided to do something else. I've seen that we own Wintergrasp at the moment, so I've decided to host a VOA raid 10 and 25 player and to reserve the Retribution PvE items for me. Things went really smooth. I found people really fast. And when we went to VOE 25, we first killed the fire boss and nothing dropped for me. But after that, at the frost boss, it dropped sanctified gloves for me, which are not best in slot, by the way. Retri Paladin doesn't use sank gloves, but still, it's a 264 item for a 3k gear score Paladin, which is ultra nice. Then on the 10 player, I also did the fire and the frost boss, but I was not lucky. I didn't get any items, but still, I get 2 emblems of frost for every frost boss kill, which is still super nice. We're gonna need a lot of frost emblems. And with doing VOA 25 and 10 player, we again get back to the two options that we have, either to farm or to do dungeons. There's just not much that you can do at this gear, so I decided to go and do the Sons of Hodir reputation quest chain. You get like 1000 gold by the time you complete the whole quest chain. Also, you unlock some more items at the vendor and you get the only in-game PvE shoulder enchant that you can get. While I was doing the quests, I got another dungeon pop. I've done the dungeon quickly, it was an easy violet hold. After that, I've got back to completing the quests for Sons of Hodir. And as I said, after we completed the quest chain, we have one more enchant unlocked. So this is one step closer to our final goal, guys. Everything that we do now is really important and is gonna affect the end game. As you can see, when using this technique and not rushing to get gear, we got more than 3.7k gold in cash, and our bank is starting to look pretty good with materials that we can sell. After I cleared my bags in the bank, I went to the Triumph vendor and I bought my epic Librum. And off we go to the dungeons again. And here is one of the most interesting parts of episode 2. I've done my first ever Oculus and I've got the Blue Drake mount from my first ever Oculus Heroic. I really felt really excited about this because we're so low, but we already have somewhat of a cool mount. Yeah, I know that most of you will say there's nothing special about this, but when you're a fresh character and you don't plan to donate, it's pretty cool, I might say. Then with every dungeon, with every mining node, with every skinned beast, we got closer and closer. As you can see now in the footage, my bags are completely full with materials, which is a nice sign. You're gonna see in a minute what I'm talking about and why do you need this gold. Most of the players will just go and buy BOE items, but if you think in the long run, you can get really nice loot without paying for it. You just need to pay for the right things, guys. Remember that. And as you can see, when we completed enough dungeons, we finally got enough Emblem of Triumph to buy a new helm. And with this upgrade, we got to 4.6k gear score, which is starting to get really interesting because our character is slowly becoming a factor. We can now do some damage, we can fight some elite mobs by ourselves, and this is pretty nice. To prove this to you, sometime after I bought the helm, I found some more dungeons and I found a guy who was hosting a TOC 25. And I said to myself, why not ask the guy to join? I'm gonna offer to help him, and if he likes me, he may take me in the group. Like, I wanted to try my luck. And guess what? He took me in the group. But he wanted me to buy gems and enchants. He wanted my character to look nice, no matter that I was under 5k gear score. So I instantly went. And do you remember the start of the video when I told you how important it is to do the reputation quests at the start so you have the enchants? Well, yeah. Now because I have them, I can go and buy them. And it's gonna look nice to every raid leader to see you having a head and a shoulder enchant on such a low character. It just feels professional, like you know what you're doing. It took me some time, but we were still missing a lot of people in the group, so I rushed as much as I can. But I don't know if you saw what I saw after it was too late, but I accidentally bought a healer pants instead of a DPS T9 pants, which was so sad. And I've realized this after I went to the auction house and gemmed it, so it was not refundable anymore. So those are 50 Emblem of Triumphs down the drain. But who cares? Then after feeling sadness for a couple of minutes, I've continued to gem and enchant myself completely, which was a nice feeling. I forgot about the pants, I didn't care that much about it. After that I went to Dawaran, the leader inspected me, he accepted me. I went in front of TOC 25 and you can never guess what happened. The raid group fell apart. Why? Because there was a bug and the raid leader had an ID, the old raid leader had an ID, and when he changed raid leader, the ID didn't disappear, and when he disbanded the group to make a new group, the people never joined again, and it was a waste of time. But still, my character is well gemmed and enchanted. But don't worry guys, I'm not gonna leave things like this. I'm pretty sure that all of you wanna see Fresh to BiS enter an actual raid. So, I found a guy who was trying to do an outrun for ICC 25, and I thought, why not ask him to sell me the blood from Rotface and Festergut? And guess what? He accepted. So we made the deal, and things started to really get interesting. We're actually gonna see Fresh to BiS in an actual raid with an actual chance to get some items from it. I mean, like maybe even pre-BiS items. The run was going pretty smoothly and I was feeling so nice because when I log on to my BiS Retri Paladin, I kinda don't wanna see ICC. I'm bored of this, doing this for 15 years. But when I log on to a fresh new character and when I get an ICC and I know that items may drop for me, that I'm gonna roll for them, that I'm gonna try to compete with other players by doing decent DPS for my gear score, it's a different story. We killed most of the bosses easily, but the leader was kind of skeptical about the run. I think that he was rushing because he just wanted to kill some bosses just before the reset. Like for example, after we killed Rotface and Festergut, and I took the blood of course, he was an honest guy, he sold me, I paid him. He didn't even want to try PP. He wanted us to go to the Boot Queen and he said that if we one-shot the Boot Queen, we might try PP. But we did a really shameful wipe at the trash before the Boot Prince Council because some crazy guy pulled all the packs, and as I told you, the leader was skeptical, so he didn't even want us to attempt the Boot Prince Council. Then the leader wanted us to go to Valitria instead of trying BPC, and here I did something crazy. I've decided that I'm gonna enter the portals as a Retri Paladin. And you might think that I'm crazy, but there is a catch behind all of this. See, the Retri Paladin has a talent called Sheet of Light. This talent is gonna heal 30% of the healing done by a spell if it's a critical strike. But the interesting part is that the stacks you get from entering the portals also multiply the healing from Sheet of Light, which is BiS-like by the way. So I've entered the portals like a normal healer, except I'm a Retri Paladin with no healing gear or no healing talents. And at the end, as you can see, I've beat most of the healers. That's like 17k heal per second as a DPS. Did you ever imagine that you can do this? Like, I know this for 15 years, but 99% of people don't know that you can do it as a Retri Paladin. So if you're a Retri player, try this and you're gonna amaze people around you. If you have better gear, you can even do more heal per second, so give it a shot. Then basically this was raid over. The leader didn't want us to continue and attempt more bosses. When we rolled the loot at Light's Hammer, I had some items that I could have won, but I wasn't lucky, my rolls weren't high enough, and this was an outrun, so there was a lot of players that rolled on the items. But at the end I was happy because I've got a decent amount of Emblem of Frost, and also I have a 100% guaranteed Shadow's Edge weapon, which for a 4.8k gear score Paladin is pretty nice to have. So the only thing left for me to do is find 25 Primordial Saronite to get Shadow's Edge, and with a full bank of materials, as you can see, I think that this is not gonna be a problem for me. I've took everything from the bank, and after that I've put it up for sale on the auction house, and I was absolutely sure that I'm gonna have enough gold to get the 25 primordials. And while I was waiting for everything to sell on the auction house, I've decided to try and give it a second shot to do a TOC 25. So I found a guy looking for people, and I offered to help him find people. In exchange, he takes me in the raid. And that way things got even cooler, because in this episode you're not only gonna see one raid, you're gonna see two raids. And this is two chances to potentially get some really nice items and increase my gear score early in the game. If you're polite, if you ask politely, and you offer to help with whatever you can, people are gonna take you in the raids. As you can see, I'm under 5k gear score, and already I've been into ICC 25 and TOC 25. At the end, that's verdict dropped, and I wanted to get it so badly. It was gonna be such a nice thing to get it before reaching 5k gear score on a character like this, but sadly I didn't have any luck. But I got a wrist upgrade. I also won one trophy of Crusade, which was nice. Everything counts when you're that low. And now, coming close to the end of this journey, in episode 2, comes the most satisfying moment. I went to the mailbox to collect my earnings from the auction house. And guess what? Almost everything sold, and I've made 12k gold. And guys, this 12k gold was just by me farming while waiting for dungeons and waiting for raids. I didn't even focus that much on farming. This is why professions are so important. So now I'm left with finding 25 primordials. I've made a spam command, I've started spamming, and I found a guy who sold them to me for 6,500 gold. Also, I forgot to film it, but before buying the primordials, I've even bought my berserking enchant and 2 gems, so when I get the weapon I can instantly gem and enchant it. After that I went back into ICC, and this is how you get Shadow's Edge. If you have never played a melee DPS and you have never get Shadow's Edge, this is the way that you get it. I'm gonna leave the scene so you can enjoy it. With this, I was so excited to put the enchant and the gems on my Shadow Edge, because I really like my character to always be gemmed and enchant. And I can finally say that we've managed to get over 5k gear score, even 5.1k gear score with Mr. Fresh to BiS. Slowly, step by step, we're becoming a factor. And because of the positive feedback on episode 1 and me seeing that maybe potentially hundreds of people are waiting for episode 2, I've decided to do a little bit more for you. And if you wanna do a little bit for me, you can go on my Buy Me a Coffee page and you can tip me with whatever you want. That way you're gonna help me continue the series. Thank you. Let's move back on to the video. I've done some more random dungeons to get some more emblems and the week reset. So now I can do a new weekly quest. This time the weekly quest was in Wood War. So what better than to host my own Wood War 25 raid, so I can maybe get some BOEs, maybe even get a fragment for Valanir and get some more emblems of Frost and emblems of Triumph. I've started spamming for the raid and on day 1 after the weekly reset, it's ultra easy to find people to do the weekly quest. I've decided to do a 25 Wood War raid and kill the first 4 bosses with the BOEs, the orbs and the fragments reserved for me. I found the people and it was pretty easy. We went inside. Sadly, I didn't get a fragment, but I got a BOE, which is around 2000 gold. Who is gonna decline 2000 gold? With that saying, I've returned the quest and I've paid a quick visit to the Triumph vendor and bought the famous Mark of Supremacy trinket, which costs 15 emblem of Triumph. And with that, we finally got the epic achievement, which I think is well enough for episode 2, guys. As you can see, Mr. Fresh to BiS starts to look more and more like a decent character. And all I can say is thank you for watching. And also don't worry, I'm already finished with recording episode 3, so there is a lot more to come. Also, I want to ask you guys, please be patient because I have a couple things that I want to say. First, I'm gonna become a father, and this that you see on your screen is Nibba Jr. Second, I have a job. I work sometimes 8, 10 to 12 hours per day, so it's really hard for me to catch up with everything here. And before thanking me, you should thank my wonderful wife for her support about me doing this. She fully supports me filming, editing this and spending so much time on the PC after work so I can give all of this to you guys. Thank you, thanks to my wife for supporting me and see you in the next episode.